I should put you in the commercial because that's absolutely right. You should always be recruiting. So what our clients do is they come to us with the five hires they need to make. And when we finish those five hires, they ask us to fill their database with more people. So when, let's say, the marketing manager leaves with no notice, which happens, then we have people in the database that you could tap on the shoulder and reach out and say, hey, we have a new opening now. So yep, that's what our, most of our clients do.
Welcome to Insurance Shoptalk. This is the podcast where the world of commercial insurance gets a little closer to home. I'm your host, Eric Stein, and in every episode, we're taking a deep dive into the insurance industry, from the latest news and trends to in-depth interviews with insurtech experts, carriers, and agency newsmakers. We're covering it all. So sit back, tune in, and let's start the conversation. All right, everybody. I'm excited to have Walter Sabrin on with us from Venture Employer Services. Walter, how you doing?
Hey Eric, great to see you, hear you, and I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me.
Absolutely. So I've known Walter quite a long time. He helped me recruit for my agency, like probably 15 years now, right? I mean, for
Eric, I don't want
operations.
to date anyone, but I think we're going back like 20, 21 years, something like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, you helped me hire like producers, sales management, operations, like some of my best hires like Cherie and Kayla. Those are like some of the just the top of my head were the best hires I think I've ever had in my life, actually, that I think came from you. But anyway, I won't sing your
Love
praises
it.
too much, but you've been a great partner. So I thought with the fact of that the challenges we all have as agencies in recruiting talent, especially for producers, account managers, sometimes in operations, and just the whole recruiting process in general has been a challenge. I know a lot of agencies are using some recruiting services, but I think you've got a few things in your back pocket that are unique that I believe will help agents. So why don't you talk a little bit about your background, introduce yourself, and then we can kind of jump in.
Yeah, sure, Eric. And thanks again. Yeah, my name's Walter Sabrin. Very easy to find on social media, LinkedIn. Um, Eric, I will make a statement and I stand behind it. I believe I'm the only Walter Sabrin on the planet.
Whoa.
So yeah, so very easy to find. And if anyone coming from your podcast, Eric, just wants to have a conversation, literally just wants to talk about retention or hiring or lack of flow or no shows or the counter offer, anything having to do with recruiting, just reach out to me. I'm easy to find, and I'd be happy, to have a conversation. But yeah, so I am a former New Yorker, a failed aspiring professional tennis player, who then, got into sales leadership and then got into recruiting, about 21, 22 years ago, and then kind of latched on to the insurance, PEO, HR outsourcing kind of industries. And I just became very attuned to some of the needs, in the insurance world, from a business owner standpoint. And Eric, today is a terrible time because the jobs market is a mess. And it's also a really crazy, great time because of all the new ideas and new technology and, improvements in the process. So, yeah, I mean, whenever you're ready, I can jump in and start with a couple. You ready?
Oh, absolutely. Please.
Yeah. So let me start with one that's under everyone's nose. There's no technology involved, and people are just missing this every day. Every day, I have conversations with agency owners and I ask, what's your internal referral program look like? What's your bonus? How much are you providing for your existing team when they go out and find you someone? And I can't tell you, Eric, how many times the answer is, oh, we don't do that. We don't really have a plan. And, Eric, look, I think I'm a great recruiter. I have a wonderful team. I have an awesome team that works behind me. But agency owners need to understand their best recruiters are their team, their current team who chooses to come to work every day, chooses to work, for you, Mr. or Mrs. Owner. You got to be reaching out to them, and whatever it is, you're offering $1,000, $5,000, you're offering the money on start after 90 days, whatever the program is, we could talk about it. And I'll also throw that out again, Eric. If anyone wants to talk to me in greater detail about internal referral bonus programs, yeah, I'd be happy to,
Oh, that's
because
crucial. Like you're saying, like the employee that's referring, they already know the culture. Most likely, if they're referring, their friend is a similar personality, similar
right.
culture, hopefully similar work ethic. They wouldn't want to have them on board and make them look bad for referring. So yeah, you're right. It is a simple thing. I think you got me on that kick too. So I remember having to pay some of these bonuses. I didn't even know to even offer it. But it works.
Yeah, no, it really works for some of the reasons that you just said. They know you, they know the culture. They're not going to bring in generally, they're not, what I have found is people, when they hear about a referral bonus program, they're not bringing in their friends and family or former colleagues for the money. They're bringing it in to really up level the agency and to work around, good, smart people. Another low tech item is, just doing some simple job fairs. Now, a lot of people, when they think of a job fair, they think of, going to the stadium or the arena, the Coliseum, and 20,000 people are, jammed in. Like, you can have a coffee and bagels Saturday morning or Friday lunch, donuts and bagels and coffee, and bring people in to your place, check it out, speak to some of the folks already. You can hire on the spot, you can take in the resumes, etc. But it's a great hands-on feel for candidates. It's a little bit old school, I'll give you that, but I got to tell you, for the younger demographics and the middle and the older demographics, they seem to love it, and they like it. It gives off like a little bit more of a family vibe.
No, that sounds cool. Like, and I know, like my daughter, when she was looking for a job, and she went to the University of Miami, they would have these job fairs at the campus for seniors,
That's
graduating.
right.
So
Yeah.
to your point about the attracting some of the younger talent, they're very used to that in the last few years of their career at school to know how to do the networking with that, and that they get it. So it could attract some younger talent for, some of the tech pieces of what we do in an agency.
Right, right. And look, a lot of times, Eric, you need a team to promote the job fair, promote the referral bonus. You need a voice out there, getting candidates to potentially show up. What I've seen some agencies partner with other other businesses who don't compete in the same space. I had an agency get together with a restaurant supply company. They were looking to make some hires. The agency was looking to make some hires. So they had a dual job fair, and they decorated the place, nicely, and they made it like I'm not going to say a party, but a very festive kind of a feel. And both organizations made more than 4 hires that day, right then that day. Now, moving forward, as you take the applicants, you put them into your applicant tracking system, you can get hires from that for the next year, moving forward. But they both made several hires that day, and they deemed it pretty successful. And, what did it cost them? Eric, it cost them a couple of, ribbons and balloons and coffee and bagels.
Sounds great. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so that that was just a couple of things that I just wanted to throw out to your audience of things that are not being done that can easily be taken care of. And then, Eric, a lot of the conversation comes down to you own an agency, you're looking for CSRs or producers, whatever you're looking for. How are you going about doing it? Do you have an internal recruiting team? Are you sponsoring postings on Indeed and using ZipRecruiter? And the problem with the job boards these days is that they're mainly locating, and I know this is something when I would work with you, you wanted to find generally the guys and gals who are working, not the unemployed. And the problem, and by the way, that is not in the minority. I mean, most agency owners, most business owners that I work with across all industries, they typically want to hire people who are working right now, maybe at the competition, but even if not, they're working, they're getting paid, they're earning a salary. And the problem is the job boards are not, they don't address, they don't find, the 96% employed. They find the 4.5% unemployed people who are sitting home and waiting, to find or looking, to find a job. So what we have done is, we have a couple of solutions, but they all revolve around good old-fashioned headhunting. And Eric, I know you're going to think we're crazy, but we're doing something that no one does anymore. You ready?
Yes.
You pick up the phone. I know it's a crazy notion these days.
You don't shoot a LinkedIn or an email. You pick the phone up.
Eric, we literally pick the phone up of someone whose profile matches of what we're looking for. We pick up, we call them, and we say, hey, how's it going? Are you open to a potential different opportunity? Maybe it would be more money, maybe it would be a better culture, but are you open to just having a conversation with this agency or that agency, or we keep it confidential? And you'd be surprised how many people are working, not so happy. So they're open. They're open to, so that's how we have found a way to find the employed folks who match the profile. And it's our job just to persuade them to have a conversation. Then it's the agency owner's responsibility to close them, to talk to them about what's different about their agency, versus the others in the market.
No, that makes sense. And I guess you'll get the profile, of course, of what the agency owner is looking for, kind of experience, and then you review that and match the LinkedIn or however you do it to what these folks are doing now.
Yeah, and that's so important. The owner or the hiring manager has to be ready, has to understand what do you, it's not such an easy question. Who do you want to hire? Like, who are you looking for? A lot of times people just tell us, oh, I want someone who has good numbers. And that's typically not always the case. What's your culture like? Are you remote, hybrid, or in office? Are you flexible? Where's your compensation? Are you flexible, on that? So Eric, before we work with anyone in the recruiting realm, we have what we, classify as an intake call. And on the intake call, yep, we want a job description, we want the must-haves, we want the non-negotiables of the kinds of people that you're looking for. And then when we have all that information, my team and I, then we go into the market and then we look and we hunt literally or search for folks, who will follow up and check those boxes.
Right, right. I know I've given you minimum 5 years, got to have the license for PNC.
Right.
And and if I'm depending on the position, like it was sort of an underwriting or account manager, they need to know work comp, and not personal lines or that,
Right.
So I had to be very specific to set these minimums because when I didn't do that on occasion, it would screw up the people you guys were wasting your time, talking to.
Yeah, yeah. And look, in the beginning, by the way, in the beginning, when I started working with you, I didn't know you. I didn't know how much of a jerk you were until,
That's
well,
right.
but once I started working with you for several positions, then we understood the culture, we understood, and we could speak to the candidates. I didn't need to ask you anymore. But in the beginning, yeah, I remember asking you, Eric, what's it like to work for you? And you made it very clear you're not a micromanager. If you're doing your job, that's what you want. You're looking for people who are going to work hard, do their job, and that's what we need to learn, in the beginning. Eric, I'm curious. Just a question for you. You have a good relationship with your audience, speak to them pretty much on the regular. Are they are they predominantly using staff from the United States? Have they opened up their minds and their processes to hiring people outside the US? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would say pre-COVID, it was very rare, to find
Mm,
folks using offshore or even offering a lot of remote opportunity. Then after COVID, it just took off like a rocket, I would say out of 10 agency owners now, where it was 1 out of 10, I bet you now I'm seeing 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10,
yeah,
depending on what
yeah,
part of the country they're in and how big their agency is. But yeah, and they call them in our world virtual assistants, um, and
yeah,
virtual,
gotcha.
and
So,
some are even like licensed if they're out of Puerto Rico, as an example. They have an actual PNC license. They're more expensive, but but yes,
well, they're less expensive than Chicago, but they're more expensive than Colombia or Argentina or other areas. Because that's something that I have found in the insurance P&C space that we call it nearshoring, not offshoring, because we typically find countries and talent pools who are on the same time zone. So, a 2 or 3 hour flight, but the same time zone, they speak English and Spanish. And not only VAs, not only virtual assistants, but I'm talking lead generation. I'm talking people who can sell and they generate business for the agency, to close that business. And then the cost per acquisition for clients is so much less. Let alone, like you mentioned, administratively, it's pennies to the dollar. It's kind of like a 65% savings if you're in the United States using a nearshore talent. It's about 65% less wages than in the US. So yeah, I wanted to throw that out also as a potential cost savings on hires, on production. It only enhances the ROI in a big way.
Hey everybody, it's Eric. I just want to pop in for a quick announcement. Exciting news. I just launched my new book on Amazon. It's called The Blueprint: An Insurance Agency's Unconventional Rise to the Top. And it goes through a little bit about how I built the agency Insured Solutions since 2009 to today. and the blueprint in terms of how I actually did it with the tech stack, the offshore, nearshore talent, and digital marketing techniques that I use. So pick up a copy today on Amazon. Thanks, guys. No, I agree. And then in terms of that, so you're able to offer some access then to that kind of service if requested.
I am again, Eric. Yeah, and I have a crazy story about our nearshore company, which is called Salvo Global. And Salvo Global came around in about 8 years ago. And we started in a house in Medellin, Colombia. I was there in the very, very beginning. And you ready for this, Eric?
Yeah.
Today, about 8 years later, we have over 40,000 employees. So we went from 10 or 11 people to over 40,000 in about 7, 8 years. It has just been a juggernaut to produce. Look, Eric, I'm going to be straight up with you. I was one of those dumb Americans who thought that the American workforce, was 100% all the time better than anyone outside the United States. And you know what? It's just simply not the case. Sometimes we're better, sometimes we're the same, and sometimes they outwork us. They have a better work ethic, they're smarter, and sometimes they're not. So the moral of the story is meet the person. Meet the person, finances aside, we have found that the nearshore solutions are just phenomenal in value, not just the economics.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And yeah, we've used some of the nearshore pieces too. And yeah, one of the people like Joanna, she is like 8 people in one. And her
Yeah.
her English is impeccable. She had some time in Australia, so she learned the language and the accent's perfect, the English accent, and she speaks Spanish, of course, out of Colombia. So it is like if she ever left, Joe would just cry and go into a field.
Uh, yeah,
We have
for sure.
agents, and she'll speak to our agent community through it because we were calling on agents with insured solutions. And some of
Uh,
the agents like, where did you find Joanna? And they don't even know she's from Colombia.
right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Eric, I heard a statistic the other day. So if anyone in your audience is thinking, oh, they can never find this or they can never fill this position, I heard this stat. In the last 7 years, we have filled 850 different job titles. Eric, I didn't even know there are 850 jobs in the world, but 850 job titles we have filled, and it takes no cost, doesn't cost anything to take a look at our talent. So again, I'll give my contact info at the end, but if anyone just wants to learn more, you don't have to use our company. Just I would put it into your 2026 hiring strategy as far as things that maybe you're going to try that you didn't try in 25, or if you are using someone in India or the Philippines, maybe try someone near shore. They're much more Americanized. They know our country. They love Taylor Swift. And you know what? Speaking Spanish and English in most states here, that's a bonus.
oh yeah, absolutely. So then I want to now also kind of go into some of the nitty-gritty of recruiting right now in terms of I think you mentioned earlier there's some new tech or some new vendors you're using to assist to locate the phone you already mentioned, but like go through like the process of what happens. Let's say I give you an order to give you the job description, turn you on, like how does it work?
Yeah, sure. Great question, Eric. So, certainly we have that intake call and we ask, where can the person work? If let's say one of your agencies, Eric, is looking for a graphic designer, okay? And they're used to having the graphic designer work in the office, but why does a graphic designer need to work in the office? Typically they don't. They could work anywhere in the world. So instead of spending $85,000, $95,000 on a good graphic designer, you could get a great graphic designer working out of our office, for like 36, 35,000 a year. But what happens is we have the intake call, we learn who you're looking for, and then my team goes out there and we find several candidates that fit the profile. And we send them to the client. And we send them in an email form with a video so you could hear and see them, a summary of our interview with them, no cost up until this time, by the way. No, you just take a look for free. And then if you decide to hire someone, you say, you know what, I'd like to hire Maria. And then fine, we give Maria, an exam, both psychological and physical. We're very thorough, and typically things work out. Maria starts on the first, and that's when you start paying the bill, which is an all-in payroll, insurance, taxes, benefits. We make it very easy for you, and Maria is now working for you exclusively, and you just pay us. So fiscally, Maria is our employee, but in every other way, she works for you for 45 hours a week.
Gotcha. This is an offshore example. Now, how about an onshore example?
Yeah, sure. So onshore, Eric, we have a technology solution which is both tech and uses human beings. So the tech side of things, we use a platform called Distro. And what Distro does, it incorporates AI, and it will rank and score the early candidates that come on board. This way, as everyone knows, if we're spending a lot of time recruiting and screening twos and threes, it takes away from us speaking to the sevens, eights, and nines. So Distro helps us from the AI side. It kind of, ranks them based on the profile, based on what you're looking for, on who you're looking for. And then we go into the human element, speaking to the candidates on the phone. And similarly to the nearshore, example, the only difference is they will be living near where you want. You want them in Chicago, if you want them in St. Petersburg, that's where the candidates live. And we find out if they're qualified and interested, and you only receive the qualified and interested. Sometimes it goes into your applicant tracking system. If you're a small firm and you don't have an ATS, then we'll just send them to you via email. And then what we do is we literally we look to make hires based on what you tell us you want. You want two CSRs, a producer, and a marketing person. Well, those are the 4 or 5 hires we're looking to make.
Gotcha. You can do a minimum of 1 hire to get started, right?
Yeah, here's the minimum. It's 10 hours a week. You ready for this, Eric? You get 10 hours a week of devoted time from a team of 3 recruiters. So 3 recruiters will be working for you for 10 hours a week for $999 a month, $999. So for as little as $1,000 a month, basically, you can have a team working for you. If you want more hours, it'll cost more.
Okay.
But the greatest thing about this platform, which is called Hire Finder, there is 0 placement fees. You make 1 hire, 3 hires, or 13 hires, all you're paying for is the sweat equity of us working, for those number of hours. You're not paying for each hire, which, as can cost 20, 25, or 30% of that first year base salary.
No, I like that model. That's really cool. Like, you didn't have that, of course, when we first started working together. So
No, we didn't.
that's a cool thing. I think you could just leave that on autopilot forever, because you just always need to be recruiting and talking to people based on turnover and growth and so on, right?
Well, I should put you in the commercial because that's absolutely right. You should always be recruiting. So what our clients do is they come to us with the five hires they need to make. And when we finish those five hires, they ask us to fill their database with more people. So when, let's say, the marketing manager leaves with no notice, which happens, then, we have people in the database that you could tap on the shoulder and reach out and say, hey, we have a new opening now. So, yep, that's what most of our clients do.
Great. No, that's awesome, man. That's a cool tool. And then, but are you saying maybe to start out with that too? If you need one hire, start out with that, or would you recommend going with a full service for the first hire? Or what would you recommend?
Yeah, it depends on the pain point, depends on the size of the company. Look, we could find a placement at 25% of the first year base salary, but think about it, let's just say it's an $80,000 a year person, Eric. That's a $20,000 fee. Now, we will find them, you'll hire the person, you'll pay the $20,000, but if you wanted to use Hire Finder for 20 hours a week, that would be $2,000 a month. You could use that for practically the whole year.
Okay.
For the 20 of the same 10 months, you have a part-time recruiting crew who is out there sourcing, screening, building your database. We'll make that other hire and then some, for the same 20,000. So I'm always, there's not one solution for anyone. I'm always looking to have a conversation, do what's right for the client. We have found when we get in the door with recruiting and we help a client grow, then they want to talk to us about our other solutions, payroll and HR out, master medical plans or 401ks. So we can get into those conversations, but I mean, there's nothing more important than human capital, especially for these agencies.
No, that makes total sense. And then what would you say the state of the market? You kind of alluded to it earlier, like we're here in late Q4 25. So what's the state of the union in terms of the workplace right now? Like, I hear in the news, of course, you hear like new hires are trembling because of AI and companies are tightening that purse up there. But what else are you hearing?
Yeah, sure. So there was a big leverage swing with COVID, and the leverage went big time to the employees. The employees were like, wait a minute, we're fed up. You got to talk to us like we're human beings, because if not, we're going to go work there or work there. And the good news in that, Eric, is that a lot of companies listened. So a lot of companies their culture has improved. However, they're still not the best communication. Companies have to communicate better with their employees. You don't have to let the employees run the company. The leaders still lead the ship, but communicate at least to develop a solid culture, because hiring these days, Eric, is not as bad as it was, but retention is not great right now. There's a lot, I mean, we hear about, quiet quitting, the great resignation, all in the past, but still employees are being turned off when they're treated like children. So if you can treat your employees well, trust them with some information, I think that's going a long way for retention. And there are studies that show replacing an employee costs 3 times their salary. So a $70,000 person is costing around the 200K mark. I mean, that's ridiculously expensive, and the money is going out the back door like a sieve. So I'm just I'm just concerned that too many companies are worried about the front door, all the people coming in the front door, but they're not watching the back door where people are leaving, not doing exit interviews, not finding out why they're leaving. And that's causing a lot of pain, both financially and culture glass door wise.
And so, when you say communicate, you mean letting people, like you're saying, don't micromanage to a point where you're, it's ridiculous. To do some more trusting, have more trust, give them the assignment, let them run with it, so to speak. And then the like go into detail, like on communicating, meaning the state of the union of the company, the where giving that employee a progression from an HR perspective, in terms
Yeah,
of
yeah.
motion and bonuses and increased pay and reviews. I mean, what do you mean?
So here's an example. There's a lot of companies who went all remote during COVID. And over the past couple of years, they've been remote-ish, they've been hybrid-ish, and now they're deciding to go return to office. Okay. But how about we communicate? How about we're fair? There some of your employees sold their car. Some of your employees, they move to an area where there's no office, so how about let's have a little common sense. Let's give them a little notice. Let's not say, hey guys, Monday we're all back to office or you're fired. And there are examples of that happening out there in the market. Companies just not having an empathetic note to what their employees have, gone through over the past couple of years. So how about just let's have a little empathy for both sides. You want to go back to the office for a lot of cultural reasons, a lot of collaboration. Yeah, I'm all for that. Go for it. But let's communicate that in a positive and efficient way so people aren't shocked and trembling for their lives to keep their job.
No, that makes sense. Makes sense. And then we'll talk a little bit about progression of like, how promotion should work and getting a system in place for the role and how that would develop for someone who just gets hired after you place them.
Eric, hire from within is sometimes like the corniest, most overused phrase I've ever heard because it's just never done. Oh, we love to hire from within. We love, yeah, hire. We want to hire. And then there's no training. You're not just gonna promote someone just from them existing in your company. In my opinion, there certainly should be some maybe educational reimbursement. There should be some training programs. Like I am extremely proud of our learning and development team because their efforts do lead in specific and direct promotions. And something that I even learned from our nearshore brethren, because my whole career in the United States, Eric, I didn't even ask to have a career ladder. I would just like, hey, could I do this? Could I do that? But we now have developed career progression specifically. So if you are crossing those T's and dotting those I's, let's look at the next role, possible at the company. But to me, a big part of that is the training, and being clear on yeah, where can you go from here? Where should you go from here? Again, in the United States, Eric, over the past 7 years, we grew from 120 people to over 6,000. That's a lot of promotions. We also had to bring in people from the outside. I mean, we did. We couldn't keep up with growth, but a lot of promoting has been going on and continues. But I give a lot of credit to our people who are good, but our learning and development and training teams who get people prepared for their promotions.
P&C agents, have you run into Playbook, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company quoting workers' comp for either your prospects or clients? Well, great news. Insured Solutions, a national MGA, has an appointment that is set up to allow you to quote, bind, and service Playbook at your agency. And the coverage is in all states. It's A-rated. Startups are even accepted. There's 125,000 maximum premium. And some of the tough industries they write are construction, transportation, that includes towing and parcel delivery, manufacturing, security guards that are armed and unarmed, motor mediation, and many more. So go to our website at insuredsolutions.net, click the Get Appointed link. We'll get you logins for you and your team, and can set up a webinar for training if you'd like. Also, feel free to email info@insuredsolutions.net, and I can handle the submission myself, or call 770-402-5343. Be glad to speak to you and give you more detail. Thanks. Yeah, so I think a lot of agencies, again, are smaller. They're going to have someone in the office
Right.
do the training, but luckily there's some new tools and existing tools there, video tool training that are, we're all used to doing these days for our licensing and CE. And there's some tools there that are offered by our AMS systems that we can all use as a training. This costs money, but it may be well worth it to, like you said, prevent that retention issue or that turnover issue, as well.
Eric, no matter what you spend on train, great points, by the way. I mean, great points, specific to the industry. But no matter what you spend in training and videos or, AI to help your folks grow, it's less expensive than losing them and then having to replace them. So, yeah, you make a great point.
And then one thing I was just going to think about, I don't know what your thoughts are, but have you ever done like a lot of agencies are using the risk management departments of colleges, as recruiting tools to get the new hires that they want them to come in fresh, and they'll work closely with the producer, usually making calls for that producer, learning the business, and maybe learning some of the tech side of the business too. What are your thoughts about recruiting into these risk management schools that are part of major colleges like UGA, Ohio State, and so on?
Eric, I love the model. I love the model. We have a saying here, we hire people off the resume. We hire people who have that it factor. We hire people who have the things you can't train people on, like coachability, persistence, those things like empathy. You can't train people to have those qualities. And if you find, again, you find a young, recent graduating, that's why the college recruiting process, it may seem a little laborious. Oh, I got to spend to have a table here and, the stress balls to give away and everything. That is a fraction of what you're going to pay to hire people with 10 years experience who then leave, after 2 years to find a different job. I love hiring, those young folks. Remember also, you hire someone with 7, 8 years, sometimes you have to retrain them. You hire someone coming right out of school, they are a piece of clay. You can mold them into the way you guys go to market, and I find that very valuable. So yeah, I highly endorse and recommend doing some good campus recruiting.
Yeah, Milwaukee, you've been fantastic. Like I like all the tidbits you've given out of things you can do at no cost. You got the low cost hire right program and to start with, and then you can go full throttle for the bigger paying positions that you've got to have certain talent,
Yep.
certain amount of experience, certain amount of time in the industry. Those may be worth the full recruiting fee to get that kind of talent. Anything else you want to parlay? Again, it's Sabrin is spelled Sabrin on LinkedIn, and you can you throw your email out if you want to.
Yeah, sure. Eric, my goal here was just to throw out maybe one or two nuggets that your audience is not doing, is not trying, whether it's nearshore or an RPO like Hire Finder, or full service recruit, something that your audience can add to their game for 2026 to improve the situation. Yep, once again, my name is Walter Sabrin, and my email is walter.sabrin, S-A-B as in boy, R-I-N, at venture.com. That's VENSURE. But again, just look me up. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm the only Walter Sabrin on those platforms. And if you reach out to me in any way, mention Eric Stein, mention the podcast, I will speak to you, no charge, nothing. I just want to kind of spread the gospel, Eric, on, you don't have to suffer in silence. There are recruiting options out there, even as dismal as it may sound.
No, that's cool. 'Cause I didn't say it, but like one time we did try like the Indeeds and the Zip recruiter. It's like it was a mess, just
Oh,
weeding through
so
all that. Like
expensive.
I don't know if it's changed, but I haven't done that in a long time. But I would never do that again. So it's nice having some tools of what you're mentioning, and the direction you can help people. So no, I
Love it.
appreciate what you're doing for the industry and coming on and giving us some ideas. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for having me. Really, I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks again for tuning in to Insurance Shop Talk. If you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest trends, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, I'm Eric Stein, and this has been Insurance Shop Talk.